When I say I stopped believing in love that night, people think I'm exaggerating. But love, at least the kind I thought I had, died quietly in a hotel hallway, under the dim light of a flickering sconce, when I realized the woman I trusted most was capable of lying straight to my face. It started, as these things often do, not with a fight or a confession, but with silence. The kind that grows heavy between two people who used to talk about everything. Mara and I had been married 12 years. 12 long, warm, ordinary years. We weren't perfect, but we were solid, or so I thought. We had a modest house on the edge of town, 2 kids in middle school, and the kind of routine most couples envy: shared breakfasts, evening TV, the occasional date night when we remembered to be more than parents. Mara worked as a regional sales manager for a cosmetics company. Her job meant monthly trips to client meetings in nearby cities. I trusted her completely. I was proud of her career, even bragged about how capable she was. When she came home tired, I cooked dinner, rubbed her shoulders, made tea. That's what love looked like to me: small, steady gestures. Until it started changing. It began subtly: missed calls, delayed messages, a new perfume that wasn't from any bottle I'd seen on her dresser. She said she'd been gifted samples from work. I believed her. Then, one night, while folding laundry, I found a hotel receipt tucked into her blazer pocket. 2 nights. King suite. Room service for 2. The date? Her last business trip. I remember holding that slip of paper like it was a snake about to bite me. My hands trembled. My stomach clenched. But I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe she'd shared a room with a colleague to save costs. Maybe the meal was with a client. Maybe I was lying to myself. The next morning at breakfast, I watched her pour coffee like nothing was wrong. Her hair was still damp from the shower, smelling faintly of coconut shampoo. I wanted to ask her. Instead, I said, "You've been busy lately." She smiled, casual. "Yeah. Big quarter. You know how it is." I nodded, pretending I did. Pretending I didn't notice how she avoided my eyes. That was the first morning I truly studied my wife like a stranger. The way her phone stayed face down on the table. The way she laughed too loudly at something the kids said. Every movement felt rehearsed. For weeks, I tried to bury my suspicion under the weight of normal life. Work. Chores. Homework. But suspicion is like rust, it spreads quietly until everything it touches weakens. Then came the text message. I wasn't snooping. Honestly, I wasn't. Her phone buzzed on the counter while she was in the shower. Just one word flashed on the screen. Tonight? And below it, a heart emoji. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. I stood there for a full minute, staring at it. My pulse pounded in my ears. My vision blurred. When she walked out of the bathroom, towel around her hair, she saw me holding the phone. I expected her to panic. She didn't. She just smiled and said, "That's Hannah. From the marketing team. We're planning dinner before tomorrow's conference." Her calmness almost convinced me. Almost. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside her listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing, wondering if she dreamed of him, whoever he was. The smell of her shampoo felt foreign now. The warmth of her skin, a betrayal. The next day, she said she had to leave early for another business trip. Just 2 days, she said. A client meeting in the city. Same hotel as before. This time, something in me snapped, not in anger, but in clarity. If there was one thing I hated more than being betrayed, it was being made a fool of. So, I decided I wouldn't ask. I wouldn't accuse. I would find the truth myself. I took 2 days off work. Told Mara I had a small project at home. After she left, I drove to the hotel she'd mentioned, the same one from the receipt. The receptionist didn't recognize me, of course, but I had her loyalty card number from the receipt. It took some charm, a small lie about an anniversary surprise, and a quiet $100 bill to get what I needed, her room number, and the duplicate keys. Room 812. That's when the plan formed, not out of vengeance, but survival. If she wanted to live a double life, I'd let her, but only for one night. One night where she'd walk into her own lie and face the reflection of what she'd become. I booked the room next door, 814, and waited. The first night passed quietly. She texted me before bed, saying she was exhausted and had an early morning. I replied, "Get some rest. Love you." And I meant it. In some twisted way, I still loved her. But love without honesty is like a glass filled with poison, it looks fine until you take a sip. The next evening, I followed her. I sat in the lobby pretending to read a newspaper. Around 8:45 p.m., she walked in, laughing softly into her phone, wearing a black dress I'd never seen before. Her smile was the same one she used to give me. A man joined her near the elevators. Younger than me, sharply dressed, confident. I watched her hand brush his arm as they stepped inside. Something inside me went completely still. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. Instead, I waited until I was sure they were upstairs, then quietly approached the front desk again. With another small smile, and another $100 bill, I requested a room key replacement for 812. The receptionist handed it to me without question. I went upstairs. My hands were cold. My heart wasn't racing anymore, it was just steady, deliberate. Outside 812, I paused. I heard muffled laughter through the door. I slid the keycard into the lock, red light. Wrong one. I took out my second card, the one for 814, and swapped them. Then I walked back to my room, set up the small camera I'd bought earlier that day, aimed at the door, and waited. If she was going to betray me, I wanted her to see what betrayal felt like. When the door finally opened, 2 hours later, I saw confusion on her face first. Then fear. Then something like shame. She realized instantly that the key had been switched. She turned toward the camera. Our eyes didn't meet, but I could imagine her heartbeat. In that moment, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. I'd caught her, yes, but I'd lost her long before that. I didn't confront her that night. I let her sit in that silence, the kind of silence that eats through your bones, while she realized someone had been watching. When she finally knocked on my door, I didn't open it. I just watched the peephole glow faintly with her shadow on the other side. She knocked again, softer this time. "Daniel?" Her voice trembled. "Please, just open the door. We can talk." Talk. After months of her lies, after the late-night phone calls, after the perfume that wasn't hers, now she wanted to talk. I leaned my forehead against the door, not saying a word. Eventually, her voice broke. "Please." But I walked away. The next morning, she checked out early. I followed her to the parking lot. She was on the phone, with him, I assumed. "I can't do this right now," she whispered harshly. "He knows something. I think he followed me." Her voice shook. She looked around like a trapped animal. I wanted to walk up to her, throw the truth at her feet. But I didn't. I drove home first. By the time she returned that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, coffee cold, camera footage playing on my laptop. When she walked in, she froze. Her suitcase dropped to the floor with a dull thud. "Daniel." I didn't say anything. I just clicked play again, the moment she entered the wrong room, staring into the lens. Her knees buckled. She sat down, hands covering her face. You recorded me?" "No," I said quietly. "I recorded us. The moment our marriage stopped being real." She cried, the kind of sob that shakes the body, but I didn't move. I watched her tears like a stranger. Finally, she whispered, "It wasn't what you think." I almost laughed. "Then tell me what I think it is." Her eyes darted everywhere but mine. It started a year ago. I was lonely, you were always working, and he was just someone who listened. That's what betrayal sounds like, a justification wrapped in regret. I stared at her. You could have told me. We could have fixed it. She wiped her face. I didn't want to hurt you. I shook my head. You didn't want to lose me. That's different. We sat in that kitchen for what felt like hours. The refrigerator hummed quietly. A clock ticked somewhere down the hall. Our kids were at my mother's for the weekend, a small mercy I hadn't planned but was grateful for. Finally, she said, "Are you going to leave me?" "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "Right now, I just need you to stop lying." She nodded, then whispered, "I'll tell him it's over." That sentence was meant to be comforting, but it only made me sick. Because it meant he still existed, a living, breathing presence in our lives. Over the next few days, I moved into the guest room. We coexisted like ghosts under the same roof, polite, quiet, strangers with shared memories. She tried, in small ways, to fix things. Left notes on my desk. Cooked my favorite meals. But every gesture felt like makeup over a bruise. At night, I'd hear her crying. And sometimes, I wanted to go to her, not to forgive, but because habit is powerful. You miss the person even when you hate what they did. But every time I remembered that hotel room, that moment she looked into the camera, I reminded myself, love doesn't survive betrayal untouched. One evening, while doing laundry, I found another clue, a printed receipt from a jewelry store. The date was 2 months before the affair started. The item, diamond bracelet, custom engraving. The engraving read, M+J, always. Mara and James. So it had been going on much longer than she claimed. A year, maybe 2. That night, I called her into the room. I placed the receipt on the table. "What's this?" She went pale. "Daniel, please, that was a mistake." I looked her in the eyes. "Which part? Buying it? Wearing it? Or lying about it?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I said quietly, "You don't have to explain anymore. I know everything I need to." The next morning, I printed the hotel footage. I didn't show it to anyone, not yet. I wasn't after public humiliation. But I needed leverage. Proof. When she came downstairs, I said, "You'll leave the house for a while. I'll handle things with the kids." She nodded, too defeated to argue. As she packed, I noticed she didn't take the bracelet. Maybe that was guilt. Or maybe she just didn't want to see it again. Before she left, she turned to me. "I wish I could take it back." I didn't respond. Some apologies don't deserve answers. That week was the longest of my life. Every corner of the house carried echoes of her, the faint smell of her lotion, the sound of her laughter in old voicemails. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Just replayed conversations in my head, wondering how many were lies. Then came the call. From him. "Daniel," he said awkwardly. "I think we should talk man to man." I froze. "You've got some nerve calling me." He sighed. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Mara's a good woman." That line, "a good woman," nearly broke me. I said quietly, "Then why did you help destroy her life?" He had no answer. I hung up, shaking. It wasn't rage that filled me. It was clarity. That night, I made my decision. I wasn't going to shout or threaten. I wasn't going to drag her name through the mud. But I was going to make sure she faced what she'd done, fully, publicly, and with no room left for lies. So I planned one last thing. Our anniversary dinner was in 2 weeks. Every year, we'd host a small gathering, family, a few close friends, neighbors. I kept the tradition. Told everyone it was still on. Mara came back home the day before, dressed simply, eyes swollen but hopeful. "Thank you for giving me another chance," she whispered. I didn't correct her. Not yet. Because tomorrow night, in that candlelit dining room, the truth would finally meet the light. The night of the anniversary arrived cold and heavy, like the air knew something was about to break. I set the table myself, candles, plates, the same wine we'd always shared on this day. The house looked beautiful, almost perfect. That was the point. The illusion of love, rebuilt one last time, before it burned down for good. Mara came downstairs in a cream-colored dress. The same one she wore 5 years ago, on our 10th anniversary. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her necklace. "Does this look okay?" she asked softly. "It's perfect," I said, and my voice didn't even shake. She smiled, that old familiar smile, and for a moment, I almost saw the woman I used to know. But then I remembered the hotel room. The bracelet. The lies. And the moment passed. By 7, the guests started arriving. Laughter filled the air again, the kind that feels warm on the outside and hollow on the inside. My mother hugged Mara like nothing had ever happened. "You two are such a strong couple," she said. I looked at Mara. She smiled, eyes glistening. "We've had our rough days, but love always wins." The lie slid so smoothly off her tongue, I almost believed she'd convinced herself. Dinner went on quietly. I let her laugh, let her talk, let her play the part she'd perfected for years. Then, when everyone had settled, wine glasses half full, candles flickering, I stood. "Before we toast," I began, "I want to share something special tonight." Mara looked up, eyes bright but wary. "Oh?" "Yes," I said. "Something that shows what love really looks like when the lights go out." I walked to the TV, plugged in a small USB drive, and hit play. At first, the guests saw nothing, just a hotel hallway. Then the footage shifted. The door opened. And there she was. Mara. In the exact same dress she wore that night. The one she thought was private. The room fell into silence. Forks froze in midair. Someone gasped. Mara's face turned white. "Daniel," she whispered, standing up. "Turn it off. Please." But I didn't. The video continued, her voice, her laughter, the glimpse of another man's hand. Every truth she'd buried, every word she'd denied, played out in front of the people who once called her loyal. Finally, I stopped the video. The silence afterward was louder than any scream. My mother's hand covered her mouth. Our friend Lisa whispered, "Oh my God." Mara stood trembling, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Why would you do this?" "Because," I said quietly, "I spent years protecting a version of you that never existed. Tonight, I just wanted everyone to meet the real you." She tried to reach for me. "Daniel, please." I stepped back. "Don't." Her voice broke. "You could have talked to me. Privately. Why humiliate me like this?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "You humiliated us the moment you chose someone else. This? This is just the truth catching up." The guests left in stunned silence, one by one. No one said a word to either of us. Just soft apologies, awkward nods, eyes that didn't know where to look. When the last door closed, the house felt like an echo chamber, empty, cold, and full of ghosts. Mara sank to the floor, sobbing. "You ruined me," she whispered. I stood there, watching her cry. "No," I said quietly. "You ruined yourself." I just stopped cleaning up the mess. Hours passed before she finally went upstairs. I sat in the dark living room, staring at the blank TV screen, the reflection of the candles flickering across the glass. Was I proud of what I'd done? Maybe not. But I felt free. For the first time in years, there were no secrets left between us. Freedom doesn't always come clean. Sometimes it crawls out of the wreckage. The next morning, she was gone. Just a note on the counter. "You got what you wanted. I hope it helps you sleep at night." I read it once, then folded it neatly into the trash. That night, I did sleep, not peacefully, but honestly. Weeks passed. The gossip spread, as gossip always does. People whispered, speculated, judged. But I stayed silent. When friends asked, I said, "It's over." Nothing more. Because some stories don't need retelling. The truth had already done its job. Then, one evening, I got a message. From her. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I finally understand what I destroyed. If you ever want to talk, I'll be here." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I turned off my phone. Because forgiveness isn't about giving someone another chance. Sometimes, it's about giving yourself permission to stop looking back. Months later, I rebuilt slowly. New apartment. New city. I started running again. Cooking. Laughing, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that comes when you're finally at peace. And one morning, as sunlight broke through the blinds, I realized something simple but powerful. Revenge didn't heal me. Truth did. Because in the end, love doesn't die when someone betrays you. It dies when you betray yourself trying to hold on to them. And that was the moment I finally let her go. In the weeks after Mara left, silence became my closest companion. It was strange, how a home once filled with sound could feel so unbearably still. Every room carried her echo, the faint smell of her perfume in the closet, the indentation of her pillow beside mine, the coffee mug she always left by the sink. At first, I hated the quiet. But then, slowly, I began to listen to it. That silence wasn't emptiness. It was space, space to breathe, to think, to remember who I was before I started losing myself to her lies. People kept their distance for a while. Some were polite, "I'm sorry for what happened, Daniel." Others were curious, "Did you really show that video in front of everyone?" I didn't explain. I didn't justify. Because I'd learned something valuable: you don't owe anyone the details of your pain. Instead, I focused on small things. The kind of things that used to mean nothing, but now meant everything. I started jogging again, early mornings when the world was still half asleep. I cooked meals from scratch, even when it was just for me. And I kept a journal, something I hadn't done since college. Each entry was simple. How I feel today. What I'm grateful for. What I need to forgive. Day by day, I began to feel lighter. Then one morning, I got a call from my sister, Claire. She lived 2 hours away, and we hadn't spoken much during the chaos. "Come spend a weekend here," she said. "You need a change of air." At first, I refused. "I'm fine." She laughed softly. "Daniel, I know your voice. You're not fine." So, the next Friday, I packed a small bag and drove down. Her house was small, warm, full of the kind of life I'd forgotten how to feel. Her kids ran up to me yelling, "Uncle Dan." And for the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. That night, over dinner, Claire said quietly, "You did what you had to do. But don't let that be the last chapter of your life." I looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" She shrugged. "You can't rebuild yourself around revenge. You have to rebuild yourself around peace." I didn't have an answer then. But her words stayed with me. When I returned home, I began to see my life differently. Not as something broken, but something being rewritten. I joined a local woodworking class. It felt random at first, but working with my hands gave me focus. There was something deeply healing about shaping raw, damaged wood into something new and beautiful. One evening after class, the instructor, a woman in her late 30s named Emily, asked, "First time working with walnut?" I nodded. "You can tell?" She smiled. "You're sanding too hard. You'll lose the grain if you're not gentle." That small comment, that metaphor, hit me harder than I expected. Because she was right. Not just about the wood, but about me. I'd spent so long trying to scrub away the past that I'd started losing my own texture, my softness, my patience. Emily and I began talking after class. At first, it was casual, about wood, about tools, about music. Then, slowly, about life. I learned she'd been through a divorce too. Different reasons, same ache. And in that quiet understanding, I found comfort I didn't know I needed. One evening, after class, we stopped for coffee. She looked at me and said, "You still look for her, don't you? Even when you say you're over it." I stared at the cup in my hands. I don't look for her. I look for the part of me that existed before her. Emily nodded. Then maybe that's the person you need to find first. Her words were gentle, but they sank deep. Months passed. Seasons changed. I didn't rush healing anymore. Some days, I missed Mara, not the betrayal, but the version of her that I once believed in. Other days, I didn't think about her at all. I realized healing isn't a straight line. It's more like a tide, it comes and goes, but always pulls you closer to shore. And one morning, as I stood by the window, sunlight spilling across the floor, I finally said it out loud. I forgive you. Not because she deserved it, but because I did. That same week, Emily gave me a small gift, a handcrafted box made of walnut. Inside, she'd placed a single note. It read, "You can't unbreak what's broken. But you can build something new with the pieces." I traced the grain of the box with my thumb, feeling the smoothness of the wood. It was imperfect, but beautiful. Just like me. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in almost a year. No dreams of betrayal. No flashes of hotel doors or whispered lies. Just quiet, honest, freeing quiet. In the morning, I made coffee, opened the curtains, and looked out at a world that no longer felt heavy. And I thought to myself, maybe life doesn't punish us for the people who hurt us. Maybe it just waits, patiently, for us to remember who we are without them. It was almost a year later when I saw her again. Mara. I hadn't planned it. Life has a strange way of testing whether the wounds you've healed are truly closed, or just covered. I was walking out of the grocery store, a bag of fruit in one hand, my phone in the other, when I heard a voice behind me, hesitant, soft, familiar. Daniel? For a second, my heart froze. That name, spoken in her voice, carried 100 memories, both good and cruel. I turned. She looked smaller somehow. Not physically, but in spirit. The confidence that once defined her posture had softened into something else, guilt, maybe. Or exhaustion. Her hair was shorter, her clothes simple. No jewelry. No ring. We just stood there for a moment, two people who had once shared everything, now strangers with a complicated past. "Hi, Mara," I said quietly. Her lips trembled. "You look different." "I feel different." She nodded, eyes darting away. "Can we talk? Just for a few minutes?" I could have said no. Part of me wanted to protect the peace I'd worked so hard to find. But another part, the one that still sought understanding, told me to listen. "Okay," I said. "There's a coffee shop across the street." We sat near the window, sunlight catching the steam of our untouched cups. She was the first to speak. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," she whispered. "Not because I think you'll forgive me. I just needed to say it out loud." I didn't reply immediately. I wanted to choose my words carefully, not from anger, but from clarity. I spent a long time asking myself why. I finally said. "Why you did it. Why I wasn't enough. Why you didn't just tell me." She blinked hard, fighting tears. "It wasn't about you, Daniel. It was about me. I kept chasing something that wasn't real, attention, excitement, control. You gave me stability, and I mistook that for boredom." Her honesty stung, but I appreciated it. For the first time, I saw her not as the woman who betrayed me, but as someone deeply lost within herself. "I hated you for a long time," I said. "But eventually, I realized, carrying that hate only kept me tied to you. She looked up, eyes red. You didn't deserve what I did. And what you did that night, at the hotel, I know people called it cruel, but, you were right. I needed to see what betrayal felt like. I sighed softly. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was the only way I knew how to make the truth undeniable. She nodded, her fingers twisting the edge of her sleeve. I lost everything after that. My job, my family's respect, him, her voice faltered. But maybe that's what I needed, to lose everything to realize what I'd become. I studied her face, the same features I once knew so intimately, now shadowed by consequence. I don't wish you pain, Mara, I said quietly. I just hope you find a version of yourself that doesn't hurt people who love you. A tear rolled down her cheek. You already sound like you've forgiven me. I did, I said. Not for you. For me. Some stories don't end with fireworks or grand forgiveness. Sometimes, they end quietly, in a moment of peace that no one else sees. Life moved on. Emily and I grew closer, but we didn't rush anything. We shared laughter, silence, and the kind of understanding that comes from surviving heartbreak and choosing to love again, gently. One evening, as we watched the sunset from my porch, she said, You ever think you'd get here? To this kind of calm? I smiled. No. But I think calm finds you when you finally stop looking for someone to blame. She reached for my hand, and I let her. The world didn't feel broken anymore. It felt honest. In the end, I learned something I wish I'd known earlier. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give to the person who hurt you. It's the key you use to unlock your own freedom. And maybe, that's what real revenge is, not proving someone wrong, but showing the world you healed without becoming like them. Sometimes, I still think about that hotel room. Not the pain. Not the betrayal. But the silence that came after, the kind that strips away everything false and leaves only truth behind. That night changed me. Not because I caught my wife cheating, but because I finally caught myself, standing at the edge of love and pride, deciding who I wanted to be next. It would have been easy to stay bitter. To let anger become my language. But the truth is, revenge doesn't taste sweet for long. It fades, leaving you emptier than before. Healing, real healing, takes longer. It's quieter. It's made of small choices, getting up, breathing deep, forgiving yourself for not seeing the signs sooner. When I switched those hotel keys, I thought I was taking back control. But what I really did, was begin a journey back to myself. And that's something no one can take away again. Today, when I look at the world around me, the morning light through my window, the steady rhythm of a life rebuilt, I feel grateful. Not for what happened, but for what it taught me. That love without honesty will always collapse under its own weight. That forgiveness isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. And that sometimes, the most powerful kind of revenge, is peace. So, if you're listening to this, and you've been broken by someone you trusted, I want you to know this, you are not the sum of what they did to you. You are the person who survived it, who learned, who still has a heart capable of love. Let the pain teach you, not define you. Let go of the anger before it turns you into a mirror of what hurt you. And when you're ready, forgive. Not because they deserve it, but because you do. Would you have done what I did, or walked away differently? Tell me in the comments below. And if you believe that healing is its own kind of justice, stay with us, and subscribe for more stories like mine. Because sometimes, the hardest stories, are the ones that set us free.